Hello and welcome to Divorce on Planet Earth, Kate Scharf's real world advice for well-intentioned humans. I'm your co-host, Jane Prellinger.
And I'm Kate Scharf.
Hello there, Kate.
Hi, Jane.
Kate, this is part 4 of our series called The Divorced Parents Pledge, 30 Things You Should Promise Your Kids.
Yes, this is sort of our list of curated, compilated things that we've heard from kids over many years, themes that just keep coming back over and over again, things that they find upsetting about the way their parents behave toward them and toward each other during divorce.
Perfect. And because the pledge is too long to discuss in one show segment, we've decided to break our discussion into 6 installments, and we'll discuss 5 clauses of the pledge in each installment.
Right. And so because this is part 4, we're going to start with number 16 on the pledge.
Perfect. I'm going to start with number 16 of the Divorced Parents Pledge. Clause 16. It's hard to play soccer when we're on the sidelines shooting dirty looks at each other and angling to be more in with the other spectating parents. At a minimum, we'll be respectfully civil, but we'll aim for relaxed friendliness.
Yeah.
I hear this one. I have heard this one a number of times.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there. I mean, I know. Like, I can remember how important it felt to me in the early days of divorce, you know, when my kids played soccer, like, you know, for 5 minutes each. They played swarm ball, like whenever, when they were, you know, 4 years old or whatever. And, you know, just for some reason, it felt really important to me, you know, that the parents see me as the primary parent.
Yes.
Looking back on it, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it felt big. I was so afraid of being marginalized. There was no chance of that.
Right.
And in fact, I've learned over the years that other parents are made very uncomfortable by that kind of political angling. They feel it. They don't like it. They instinctively, with like, they're repulsed.
They don't want to be part of this.
They don't want to be part of it. And, you know, it just creates more anxiety. It makes your future ex, like, kind of join you in being competitive, like, you know, who's talking to who's bringing, suddenly everybody wants to be the snack person.
Yes.
So, and kids hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, they absolutely freaking hate it, and they will tell you to stop coming. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On to clause 17, Kate.
Yes.
We won't trash talk each other socially. Whatever we say, we'll get back to you in a nastier form.
Yeah. I mean, this is really, really important and really hard to do. And sometimes you're not even sure you're doing it because you think you're doing it with someone that you think you're pretty close to, but people always repeat it. I mean, there probably are some people in your life that you can talk to, if not confidentially, then, you know, safely.
Yeah.
You know, you can talk to your beloved sibling. They're going to talk to their significant other, but maybe that's okay. You need to talk to people. But it should, you know, if you do it in a social circle that includes your children, somehow it gets back to them through the kids.
Yes.
The kids overhear their parents.
Exactly.
And the other thing I will say about this is, whatever it is you are saying about your ex, somehow if the information is being delivered back to the soccer thing or whatever, you know, whatever school or sports related event it is, if it's delivered on the bleachers, right? You know, if the information is delivered on the bleachers, it's going to sound like the lunatic ravings of an embittered, like, divorced person. It's just not what people want to be hearing about.
Yes. Really well put. So no bleacher sharing. Let's put it that way.
No ranting.
No trash talk on the bleachers.
No oversharing on the bleachers.
So let's move on to clause 18 of what we are wanting to pledge to our kids. If you don't feel like talking on the phone, we won't sulk or accuse each other of obstructing access. And we won't push so hard for contact that staying in touch becomes more intrusive than comforting.
Yeah.
Hear.
Yeah. So the issue of, you know, how much phone, email, text, whatever contact you should have with your kids when they're not with you is an important topic for a future show. Eric. Got that?
Yes.
Like, somebody write that down because it's in my head and I've already forgotten it.
Yes.
What was I talking about? I don't know. But the important point here that we're trying to make is really don't make this assumption that because your kids don't stay on the phone and talk as long as you would like, or maybe don't even take your call, or don't call you when they said they were going to. Don't assume there's a Machiavellian plot afoot.
Right.
Because the truth is that one of the ways that kids have of managing their time away from you is not like pretending you don't exist or forgetting about you, but kind of putting you on the back burner of their thoughts. You're always there. That's how they can do it. That's what lets them do it. Because they do feel connected to you, safely attached to you. They don't have to think about you every minute.
Right.
And if you force contact when they really don't want it, first of all, kids are terrible on the phone of every age. Little kids don't even understand the phone, don't want to talk on the phone. Older kids don't even know what a phone is. They think it's just a piece of machinery that texts and goes on the internet and YouTube. If you push too hard for that, it breaks up their defenses. It makes them have to think about you, and not only you, but your anxiety and your need for them. And then they're going to start to miss you in a way that makes it really hard for them to live their life. I mean, that is something to consider. So when I always say, like, when you're pushing for that call, even if it's an agreed upon call, even if it's written into your agreement that you're going to have that call, don't even get me started on like Skype, because
that's a whole problem.
It's a whole thing. I mean, not against it in every situation, but like, if you're reading bedtime stories to your really, Eric, don't let me forget.
That's going to be our technology segment.
Then just think about, who is this call for?
Well, that's what I'm hearing. The call is for the parent in the case you're saying.
If it's for you,
to reassure you.
Be honest with yourself about it. Like, of course you miss your children. And they miss you too. But is the call going to make it worse or better?
That's exactly right.
You'll have an agreement with your ex, and if they don't follow it, you'll have recourse. They will have to let you know if there's something important you need to know.
That's exactly
Separate issue, right?
So let's move on to Article 19 in our Divorced Parents Pledge. We'll give you plenty of time to adjust to the divorce before introducing our girlfriend or boyfriend, and we will not ask you to pretend to like them or their kids if you don't. And we won't act as if a step-parent is the same as a parent. One isn't better or worse, they're just different.
I almost think this one kind of doesn't need a lot of embroidering. I mean, look, I know there are situations in which the relationship is already off and running at the time of the divorce. It doesn't make a lot of sense to pretend that's not true. You can't put that horse back in the bottle, whatever. Can't put that genie back in the barn. So, but you can be thoughtful about like how you talk about it, and still do a gradual introduction, and not, a family vacation as the first, meeting. Yeah. But if you are not already in a relationship, be thoughtful about dating, because as we've talked about many times, they figure it out generally that but you're allowed to have a social life, and there are things you can say to them about that, including, yes, I'm meeting people, but there's nobody important, and when there is, I'll let you know. But really, if you can manage it, don't make your kids have to meet your new significant other or any person you're just dating for sure, until they've had plenty of time to get used to the idea that you're not married anymore to their other parent, because, as I've said, married could be legally married or just, emotionally married. They're not a couple anymore. Because that's enough. And, more than that is more than they can handle. And a lot of parents will say to me, well, how do you know when it's enough time? And sometimes, one parent will say, a year, right? A year, right? And no overnights, right? For 2 years. I mean, people have ideas about that, and it can be discussed. Yes. I think you know it when you see it. Like, your kid. I'm not prepared to say how much time, but like enough. Yeah. And more than you're going to want, probably, because you know, and not till they're ready, because they'll never be ready. Not necessarily till your ex is ready. And not because your ex did it too soon. Right?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
But just, and then in terms of acting, you know, pressuring your kids to like your new significant other, you know, I think you can, you know, if it's been a couple years, I'm making these numbers up because I don't think they're controversial particularly.
Right.
Let's say it's really controversial. It's been 5 years. Your ex is remarried. You meet someone, you date them for a couple years. You don't introduce them to your kids. Like this is a fantasy scenario, but I'm using it for purposes of illustration. And then it's time to introduce your kids to this new person, and they say no. Well, no is not really an acceptable answer.
Yes.
And we could talk at some point about, you know, how to do that. You know, they need to do it, but it can be done sensitively and slowly. Yeah. But if they don't like him or her, they don't like him or her. They have to be respectful.
Yeah.
But they don't have to like them. Yes. And they actually need space to say they don't, because that's probably not what this is really about. This is what they don't like is the idea of them. And, you know, you can help with this by remembering and telling your new significant other, this is not personal to you. This is about you in this role. And if you don't push too hard, then your kids are going to come around faster. And this thing about not acting like a step parent is the same as a parent. Actually, this comes up a lot. There are people who really try to kind of level the playing field. Like a parent's a parent, you know, you give your stepmother a Mother's Day card just like you do. I mean, and there are people who don't do that too, but there are a lot of people who kind of do that, give that message either explicitly or implicitly and kind of guilt their kids because they don't feel like the new person is an actual parent. It works the other way too. I mean, the actual mother or father could get very upset and devalue
I was going to say that flip is allow your child to like their step
I think
parent,
that's a very important piece, and I think that even probably is another clause somewhere in our But really, it is important to recognize that the relationships are different, and it takes time for the relationship between your kids and your new significant other, married to you or no, to develop, and they need that. And if you act as though it, you know. If, you know, the big horrible example being call her mom, or call her mom number 2, or whatever. If you act like that should be an easier, you know, quick, you know, evolution, it just makes everything harder and actually take longer.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So I am going to move on to clause 20. We'll find a way to spend one-on-one time with you once in a while.
This is not like a complicated emotional one. It's just complicated logistically. Yeah. It's hard enough when you're married to find time to spend one-on-one time with your kids. So it's really hard when you're a single parent. I think it's important, though. Sometimes people write it into their custody agreements, you know, their time sharing schedule, as a, you know, we'll split this weekend, or we'll take some time. That can work okay, but in rare circumstances, it requires that the kids are okay with an additional parent-to-parent transition during, you know, the weekend or whatever. Right. It requires that the parents get along well and can be flexible with each other, because those things never go off without a hitch. And it requires that there's general good feeling all around. You know, similarly, sometimes parents will divide and conquer on the weekends when there are a lot of activities. So I am not a big fan of writing that into the actual schedule, even though it might evolve as something that you do. Yes. And naturally, and it'll work, and it's great. And the more flexible you can be with each other without hard feelings, the better for everybody. But probably better, I think, in the beginning, until you've worked your way into that kind of ease of flexibility, to, you know, if you do, to figure out a way to do it on your own time. And you can't do it every time. You can't do it every week, probably. But you can find opportunities. You know, one kid is off, you know, at hockey. That's a time you can go to the mall with your other kid and get ice cream. You know, one kid's at a play date. You can engineer a play date. You can, you know what? You can get a babysitter
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of hours. It's a good use of the time.
Right.
Like, even if your ex gets upset, like it's okay because they understand, like, it'll work both ways. And they do really value that time with you. And especially if they're coping with the divorce in different ways and don't have an easy time talking about it in the presence of the other, it gives them an opportunity to do that. But even if that's not, it's just, the such precious time alone with you, is, especially while they're young. I take that back. Anytime.
Yeah.
Just don't beat yourself up about the fact that you can't do it even every month. It's just, or even if it's 15 minutes.
Yes.
And look at transportation time as time with your child.
Absolutely.
That's when they
that
mostly
can be
do
some
their
of the most important time.
Okay.
Good. Kate. So in our next installment, we'll pick up with clause number 21.
Okay.
So in the meantime, a reminder, our pledge is by no means exhaustive. It's sort of a work in progress. So if listeners would like to write in with their own suggested clauses, listeners, we'd love to hear them.
Definitely. I don't know. We could end up with a tome.
5,000 articles.
5,000 articles in our,
Yes.
But that's okay. So normally we end our show with spliticisms, but for this series, and there's 2 more installments to come, I think. I've wanted to end by reminding our listeners of some really important points.
Yes.
So I've been repetitive. As we often say on the show, this is tough stuff, and you are only human. I mean, human's good, but I keep saying you're only human. It's not that we're a better option. Anyway. So when you screw up, and you will, own it. But use it as a learning opportunity, right? For you, for your kids. And one of the ways to use, as a teaching opportunity as well. And one of the ways to do that is to be thoughtful about it, to apologize if you can do it authentically and feel like it makes sense to do that, to whoever you feel like you want to apologize to your child, to yourself, to your ex, maybe, God forbid. But really, or, maybe not to them directly if you can't do that, but in your own head, to the friend you overshared with, whoever. And really do give yourself a break, because, as I have said before, and I'm going to say it again, it's so much more important. You get so many more parenting points, and your kids learn so much more from your ongoing attempt to recenter when you get pulled out of alignment, to try to keep their needs front and center, even though it's really, really hard when you're hurt and angry, and they know you're doing it. Yeah. And they get so much more out of that, and you get so many more parenting points than you do for getting it exactly right in any given moment.
Yes. Really, really important point. So, thanks for listening to Divorce on Planet Earth, Kate Sharf's real world advice for well-intentioned humans. We invite you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Divorce for Humans. That's Divorce, the number 4 Humans, and on YouTube at Divorce on Planet Earth. That way you'll know when we have a new blog post, video, or podcast. Speaking of blogs, you can read Kate's at divorceonplanetearth.com. And if you have a general divorce question or an idea for a show topic, please write to us at info@divorceonplanetearth.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we promise not to share your personal information, including real name and email address. Please remember that the ideas we share here can never fully address any one listener's specific situation, are not offered as therapy or divorce coaching, and are not intended as a substitute for clinical services. Divorce on Planet Earth is produced by Eric Paguero. Our music was composed by Ben Kaunitz. I'm your co-host, Jane Pralinger.
I'm Kate Sharf.
We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.